Hello, everyone. Today we celebrate 4 years of Corpus Venn. 4 years since the day November 5th of the year 2021 when the first Corpus Venn was starting to be written by me, of course, because I'm the author. So, what is the Corpus Venn? Corpus Venn is a collection of writings about philosophy, physics, and general science, with the use of characters from the fictitious world whose function is to provide an explanation for the laws of nature and on how the universe works. The term corpus means body, and Venn signifies sections of the universe comprised of elements. The author, which is myself, first began writing Corpus Venn November 5th of the year 2021, but many of its parts were derived from other pieces of writing dated back to July of the year 1996. Back in the late 90s, a story was written about the Battle of Angels. It was a story about a war between good and evil, where beings fought for the possession of a rock of wisdom called Sarmates. The Knights of Ravens fought for this rock in order to bring peace and stability to the universe. In 2021, the characters were first used to teach physics, which is what I have been doing ever since then. In July of the year 1996, when the author was only 9 years old, he created a character called Sue Happy Haven. The author describes how the character's name just appeared in his head, and he immediately began writing a story. The very first thing ever written was a story where Sue Happy Haven is a knight defender of the kingdom of realms and a planet of ravens when he is betrayed by one of his best friends called Clades. Moments before they were about to confront each other with swords, they were swallowed by a tunnel that looked more like a tornado and were both frozen in time. The tunnel was a being called Flodo, also called Xinguo, that felt upset that two great friends were fighting each other and he decided to freeze them to prevent tragedy. You know, not all things are allowed to happen, even though lots of things can happen. Not everything should be allowed to happen, which is why Flodo in the story decided to freeze Suhat behavior and Iriclades to avoid even more tragedy from this battle. And that happened during the Battle of the Angels in the early writings of the Corpus Venn, or I should say, in the early writings prior to writing the Corpus Venn. Zeno and Corpus Venn. The story evolved over time with the author's attempt to explain about the natural world using several characters that he created. The first character with the purpose to teach science was Zeno, which is a young man that is described as being in pursuit of knowledge, also called wisdom or Sophia. Zeno had the dream of the battle of the angels after he fell asleep all of a sudden. He had a nightmare that lasted 1,000 years. After this episode, he embarked on a trip through Xingwo and got face to face with the truth and began learning about the secrets of the universe. So this marks a revolution that happened during the writings of Corpus Venn, with Zeno as a figure, as a character that delves into what the Corpus Venn calls wisdom. And it's a big adventure of how he discover new things, discover the natural world, discover the truth, and through through crossing tunnels, through in space and time, and it's really beautiful. And what I've done in this piece of writings, uh, which is really to encourage people to have a passion for learning new things, and also to inquire about things we don't yet know. Um, the grid in Corpus Vent. In this adventure through wisdom, Zeno is taught about the grid of space. The idea that the universe is like an immense grid, and every particle, every person is an element in this grand design called the cosmos. One change in one location of the whole affects the entire structure. This means that all things are interconnected and nothing is in isolation. The great city of Rome is also a grid and is used to explain about the human world and the cosmic diversity as seen in all of its complexities. So basically, the city of Rome is a mini universe inside of a city. You have all of the diversity, you have all different types of people, and it also helps you understand the diversity not only in the human world, but in all of the natural world. The four beings in the kingdom. The city of Rome's and the planet Ravens has a ziggurat at its center, which houses the great prince or king of Rome's. This creature is half fish and half human, and his name is Vajra. He is like an elf with a long pointy hat over his head, and he is also called the Prince of Peace. In each corner of this city, shaped like a square, is a tower from which each of the four beings rule a quarter of the city. They are called Sonjicrate, Pericles, Loniferionzi, and Zeno. So basically, the city of Rome has four corners. It's shaped like a square, and each of the corners are ruled by a different type of people, and these people are ruled by one representative in each of these corners. And in the middle is the ziggurat from where the Prince of Peace, the King Vajran, uh, direct orders for all of the city nation or city state. The Xingwo. The four beings are also travelers through all of space using Vlodo Xingwo spaceship. The wheel has four different colors, each owned by one of the four beings. With this wheel, they control all of the universe using this animation. Corpus Venn is a description on how the universe has cycles and how multiple circles and waves hold the laws of nature in its present form. There is an explanation of how there are cycles everywhere, daily, weekly, yearly. There are planets orbiting stars, particles vibrating like strings of energy, and so forth. All things are circles and waves. Red represents Loniferiongi, yellow is Arioclades, green is Zeno, and blue is Sanjacrape. So each of these four colors around the wheel itself is a being called Vlodo, the same one that swallowed Arioclades and Raver and froze them when he saw that the two were fighting against each other. So each of these four colors represent four edges of the city shaped like a square. And in the middle is Vajrion. In the middle of the wheel is actually Vajrion, the Prince of Peace. Circles everywhere. There are then cycles in everything we do in life, and the natural world would not exist without its multiple cycles of life and death, day and night. The number four is quite important in this philosophy, and in a similar manner, there are 4 seasons and 3 months per season, totaling 12 months in a year. So, also, if you divide everything that there exists into four different sections, you got Sonji, the dreaming, you got Lonya, the beginnings, you got Iriak, the living, and Zeno, the ending, and the cycle repeats over and over again. You got 4 seasons in a year, you got 12 months in a year, and everything repeats and repeats and repeats. There are circles everywhere and waves everywhere. The number four, there were also four elements taught by ancient Greek philosophers, and each of the four beings in realms represent one of these ancient elements: red, blue, green, yellow, fire, water, air, earth, basic colors, and basic elements to describe all that exists. The four beings in Revelation. Later in the story, the four beings appeared to a humble man in ancient Samaria called Jacovinita, and similar to what happened to Zeno, they transmit their knowledge. So, Zeno actually ended up becoming one of the four beings in the city of Rome's. So over time, and especially in Corpus Event 5, that's when a new character shows up in the story. It's his name is Jacovinita, and Vajrian and the four beings uh, start communicating with this man in ancient Samaria. And later, Jacovinita would find out how special he actually is not only for realms, but for the entire universe. The universe can be simplified throughout the corpus Venn from book 1 all the way to book 8. There are pieces of literature that explain in depth topics such as quantum physics, wave particle duality, matrices. The idea of a grid involves matrices as a way of explaining about the energies and matter of the space and time. These books explain how all things are entangled in a single well-confined universe that is also itself cyclical. The story uses these characters often for teaching physics to another character as a way to guide the reader to discover how the cosmos works and what is really the nature of truth by using reason and inquiry-based learning. So basically, the characters talk with each other, and similar to how Plato has dialogues with different people, different characters communicating with each other, and as we read their dialogues, we learn from it. There's also a lot of that in Corpus Fit. Physics and Corpus Ven's, there are several equations and theories in all of the books of Corpus Venn, fusing philosophy, modern physics. The characters guide the reader to unknown regions of knowledge and speculation about what may be truth. Similar to how Einstein stated that imagination is bigger than knowledge, the Corpus Venn is mostly a fiction. It is in fact true that many parts of all natural phenomena is not yet explained. These books then tend to explain what science does not yet know, which makes the content very interesting and open to multiple possibilities. The Corpus Venn, besides being a fiction, besides being a philosophical work, is also a work where a lot of assumptions are made and the characters kind of make up some explanation for things that we don't yet know. And who knows, later we find out that some of these conclusions are not that far off. Who knows? Music. The Corpus Venn often states about the importance of good energies, optimism, and these facts are used to describe music. It states that anything that is detrimental and negative should be avoided for the good of mental health. The literature in these books also gives a description of how to live and to be happy, while at the same time always doing what is right to succeed. So, well being is the most important thing in a human life, in the life of all animals, of everything that there exists. Feeling good and feeling calm and in peace is a priority in our life, and feeling fulfilled as well. And music should reflect that. A lot of people listen to music that is very negative, that is very hurtful for their soul without them being aware of it. So one thing that Corpus Zen stresses a lot is that music and literature, everything should be aimed for the good and never for destruction or never towards something that is detrimental and never preaching something that can be hurtful. Astronomy, the Human World, these books also explain about the author's views on astronomy, cosmology, the origin and fate of the universe in several portions of the text. There are also brief summaries about human history and stories about the future of human civilization. The stories are often vibrant, filled with teachings, and it goes back and forth between philosophy and physics. There are statements on the human relation to the cosmos and how to build a civilization that is capable to expand beyond a planet or a solar system. The book is a fusion of many ideas, and if you want to explain everything that exists, cosmology comes into play, and the book has its own cosmological theories, its own way of seeing the human and the human purpose in the natural world. It's a literature. There's lots of things that honestly I've never seen anywhere else but besides Corpus Venn. So it's very unique in several areas, and it's very interesting too. I wrote the Corpus Venn, but if I did not, I would find the book very interesting. I would, and it's a type of book that I would read. I should say that. Proof for equations. There are mathematical proofs for many equations used in physics, and it often looks like a textbook. Sometimes it does. Often there's lots of physics involved with this. With decorations to make the subject more interesting, all of this literature together forms a beautiful work which indicated that author's passion for science and how the scientific inquiry is valuable in the natural world. So, the Corpus Van, it teaches physics that not just things that we don't know or that modern science is not sure of, but also teaches uh, physics as seen, for example, in AP Physics or IB Physics. Because, if you want to create a story or if you want to build upon what we already know, it's also important to rely on concrete, verified knowledge. That means you cannot build a tower without a foundation. It's important for us to realize that there are absolute truths. And if we don't agree with that, we won't go anywhere. Jürgen Zervina, last but not least, on December 8th of the year 2022, two gnomes called Jürgen Zervina were created by the author, and their image were spread in many of the pages of the Corpus Ben book series. They are used mainly for decoration and are present to make the lessons more interesting and captivating. Jörg was created a few minutes earlier than Zervina. Jörg has a red hat and Zervina has a blue hat. They're so cool. Yeah, I created Jörg and Zervina back on December 8th of the year 2022. So, when you read the Corpus Van or when you see all this, it makes you think that this is something that has been going on for a longer time. Not really. This is brand new stuff, actually. Corpus Ven celebration. There's a day that could be a holiday to celebrate Corpus Ven. That would be on the 5th of every November, because it was November 5th of the year 2021 when I first began writing, and then it was published later. The author also remembers performing great amount of work during the Thanksgiving week of the year 2021 that led to the creation of the Great Shin universe that is now part of so many physics lesson plans. This presentation then finalizes the celebration of these 4 years of Corpus Ven today in the year 2025. So 2025, we're celebrating 4 years of this work. Even though it looks like it's been going on for a longer time, it hasn't. Well, as I said earlier in this PowerPoint, is some elements of the Corpus Vin are as old as 1996. When I was 9 years old, was when I started writing something. But the idea to write about philosophy and physics and use the characters uh, from the older story is more new. Uh, so, and I think I've been very successful in it, and I think it's very interesting what I have put here together, and I hope this will be an inspiration for many people out there who will come across these ideas. Thanks for watching.